What's going on, everybody? We just got done recording our show on fatherhood. Um, we're new at this, and we're gonna not be able to cover everything involving fatherhood, the role of the father, how important it is to be a good dad, to be there, and it's impossible to cover all that in one episode. I split the show up into two parts, but I think we're going to do a series on this. So in the future, you'll see, fatherhood, part one, part two, three, four, probably. I mean, really, there's so much to touch on, from, the historical figure of the father, the biblical, religious aspects of the father, what it means to be a father, the psychological, impact of fatherhood. Um, there's so much going on there. How fatherhood roles have evolved throughout the years, and bad fathers. We're going to talk a lot about bad fathers. So I don't want to make the whole show about fatherhood, meaning, your two dads. With the show called Your2Dads, it means we're going to talk about a lot of different things that dads would talk about. Just two guys, really. But when it comes to fatherhood, I take that pretty seriously. So I want to make sure I do it justice. And I'm just letting you guys know that this part one, this is our second taping. We're both still feeling this process out. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be complete dorks because we are dorks. That's our nature. We're really incredibly dorky dads. But we both think. We both read. We both research. We both really deeply think about things. And we're very observant about the world around us. So I hope you enjoy the show. Comment. We'll get back to you. Have any questions, we'll get to you. Thank you. And there's the stop button. I got it. Trigger warning. Think for yourself. Question authority. Say what you think. Speak the damn truth.
4 foot long with the arrow pointing down. I'm gonna wear that one, but I'll wear that for the young man show.
Right.
Advice to young men.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's get into it. All right. Hello and welcome to Your Two Dads. I am your co-host Daryl Platty,
And I'm your co-host Joe Masano.
and today we are here and we are going to talk about the role of the father. So, Joe, you're a dad. How do you father?
Well, there's a biblical role for the father, and that is to be a leader. But you can't take that as like a boss or dictator. It's a leadership role, but it's a sacrificing leader.
Mm-hmm.
So you will put the needs of your kids and your wife, even above your own. And it's to make the next generation, do as best as you can. Set them up as the most independent,
Mm-hmm.
successful,
Mm-hmm.
well-rounded, happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of I wonder, well, for me, I wonder if the reluctant disciplinarian father role kind of helps preempt. Oh, jeez, how am I trying to say this? It helps deter from being the tyrannical father. Because you could either be, the overbearing tyrannical father that is ultra, disciplinarian. But if you're a little reluctant in your role as far as making sure you're not overbearing, maybe then you'll be a little bit more fair in your discipline. You'll question yourself. You won't just like, oh, you spilled milk and just start beating the shit out of your kids,
You're not aiming for the 1950s dad where you're pretty much at work all the time, except for when it comes time to
Yeah.
when you get home, I'm telling your father about you.
Yeah, and then you're your kids are living in fear, and then they're walking down from the school bus stop or something like that, or walking around the corner and they're looking, is dad home? And there's it's really difficult because you know my mom and your mom are sisters, and we both have heard many stories about how our grandfather, their father, was that typical 1950s style, disciplinarian. I don't want to say tyrannical, but that would almost be the image that they would portray in some aspects, where they feel like maybe they couldn't voice their opinion, they couldn't defend themselves. And I think that,
Rule what my voice, my name. The kids
yeah,
are to be seen, not heard.
yes,
Now, do you think we've gone a little too far the other way, where it's the buddy dad? It's
totally, totally, I totally agree with that. I could not agree anymore, which that's why I said totally like three times. Because there has to be a role of discipline. There has to be, like, for me, the one thing I've always said is, I've said it to my kids when they were younger, and for our viewers out there, I have a 18-year-old daughter who's in college, and I have a son who's about to turn 16. So both great kids. Couldn't ask for any better. Hardworking. But the thing is I've told them lots of things. But one of the things I've told them is I'm not raising kids. They are kids. That's easy. Be a kid. My job as a father, I always viewed as I'm trying to raise future adults who are going to work hard and contribute to society and make the world a better place in their own way. Follow their dreams, and you can only achieve your dreams by hard work and sacrifice. And you touched on sacrifice earlier, and that is a huge thing for a father. I mean, now we started young, married at 19, father at 20, and my son was born 2 years later when I was 22. And so, like, our entire 20s was a whirlwind of struggle and sacrifice and just do whatever we could to get by. I was just new in my career as far as a truck driver goes, and so it was a lot of pressure. I mean, in Michigan, you have 10-cent returns. I mean, it was bad. I was collecting, cans out of the back of a garbage truck just so I could turn them in that day to get gas to get home and then back to work to do that all over again. Because I had to make sure that, I had a roof over my kids' head, food, and everything they needed. Well, we sacrificed, me and Chrissy, we sacrificed everything to make sure we could be successful parents.
Yeah, see, now I had a little bit different to where I was 10 years behind you. I
Hmm.
already had the career path established. I already had my kids. I'm just a few years older than you, and my kids are
Hmm.
5 and 9. So different path.
Yeah.
We have a lot of the same philosophies, but I definitely different priorities and stuff where
Hmm.
I concentrate on the things doing. My dad we talked previously about the differences in our dads.
Hmm.
And, I take everything that my dad did with those hard lessons, work hard, earn money, and I try to add, like, let's do something fun. Let's go on vacations. Let's do things together, Boy
Hmm.
Scouts and kind
Hmm.
of stuff like that. Um, and
Yeah.
I do a little bit more of explain why things are, my values and why things are right and wrong, kind of in an adult, maybe even a boring way.
Hmm.
But I talk to them when it comes to it like they are adults. Even if they might not understand every concept we have, I'm going to
Hmm.
explain it. And Mr. Rogers is a great example. Talk to them kind of like adults when it comes to the truth of things and the reality of things.
Hmm. Yeah, and that comes along right there with my philosophy is I'm raising adults. I'm not raising kids, and that was where we live and out in the country here in Kentucky. They got one bus that picks up K through 12. So you have
It's different.
5 and 6-year olds on the same bus as 17-year olds, and you know they've been going to, Gallatin County schools. I mean, they started, early. I think, Steve was right there, first grade and, kindergarten maybe. And I should know that, but that was so long ago. And I remember, man, they heard everything, from the older kids. So, I at least, as a truck driver, I swear better than a sailor. Sorry, sailors, but it's true. Um, so whenever we would have company over, and they would swear, so, even dropping the F bomb, which we're going to try not to do in this show, but all the other words are fine, in my opinion. But people would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, say that in front of your kid." And I was like, "Listen, they've heard it by kids 10 years older than them on the bus, but at least we're providing context." So when they become an adult, you know they'll at least know when to use it. And it's funny because now my daughter's 18, and I'm sure she swears. Ashley, I'm sure you swear, but I haven't heard it. So there's still respect. So I mean, it's not like because you swear in front of your kids are going to be loudmouth, cussing kids.
See, it's kind of funny. As I'm the opposite way as far as I'm not going to criticize you on that, but we've actually been very like we don't like to say shit even. Are they going to be in for a shock when they do that? We explained to them when they come across it, saying, yeah, some people might not use, they might use rude language, trying to express themselves. But yeah, it'll be interesting in the end what happens because we've actually probably sheltered a bit more when it comes to that kind of like TV. I'll put Star Trek on and it gets turned off because there's, and you've watched Star Trek, but there's things that might be too racy.
Yeah.
So,
and
a little different, but
yeah,
it's not, kind of a good point that, these little things you can still have a successful result in the end
because you're there
with different styles.
Yeah, because the thing it's a little bit different style, but the thing that's similar is, you got the mother figure, which is incredibly important to have a functioning mother, and you have a functioning father, and those two things coming together, your styles can differ on many things, but as long as, when the kid is in the house and they have those two forces of nature, which is the mother and father, I mean, that's incredibly necessary, in my opinion, to raise a balanced child.
I'll give credit to single mothers because the time alone it takes. I don't know how one parent can do it. I really don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying kids are not successful in that situation, but ideally, it's interesting because I had time to do very methodical and pick things out, and you kind of got thrown in the fire, and you kind of probably grew up a bit as you're growing other people up.
Yeah. Well, it's the single mother, the single father, which, stereotypically, that's a rare thing, but it still happens. And just a single parent to try to play both roles, for a mother to be nurturing and disciplinarian and vice versa for a father to be both things. I mean, that's rough. And divorced parents, I mean, it happens. I mean, being married at 19 years old, the divorce rate for someone my age was over 90%. And it probably is still that.
About 54 for the rest of us.
Right. So, I mean, we're going on, getting close to 20 years married here and everything is fine. It feels like 100 years, but,
It's uncommon we have the stable,
Just
family.
kidding.
Kids act out, especially when you're older. My parents got divorced, boom, start acting out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that comes down to their biggest fear is they feel, kids' abandonment and attention. We don't provide, and you can be an absent father. You could be working nights, not purposely, but, you could be military deployment. And if your focus is those kids, you can do different things, different styles. And I don't think it matters so much, even if you think someone's good or some bad. It's the fact is if the kids are your focus and your mission. Yeah. That seems to be the most important thing. Give them quality time. You give them quantity time when you can, and that seems to be this. There's not a certain path that's the right path. It's
Hmm.
your intent and your motivation while you take
Yeah.
that path.
Yeah, and this is, I don't even know if what we're saying is anything new. Like, there might be people listening and be like, well, yeah, duh. You're right. But there's still people out there that, I mean, just go on YouTube and, you can tell that there is a little boy right now or a teenage, young man or a, man in his 20s who is a new father who they're just going to screw up. And of course you're going to screw up.
Yeah, and the path and what you do is not necessarily the thing. Is are you
Mhm.
trying? Does
Right,
it matter a lot to you?
right.
And that's the thing. We can argue all day long about different philosophies, and it comes down to one thing: how important are they to you,
You're right. And
and what you do about that.
like what I've told my kids, and I'm sure this is not nothing original, but it's like your kids, it's like your heart outside of your body, and you can't protect that. And so like, my daughter's in college and it's like, you know, that can that
A little too
that,
old for
that
tracking devices.
it's not easy, it's not easy, but you know that is when the years I've invested in my style of parenting, is flawed as they may be, which of course they always are. I did the best I could, and I don't fault my parents for any mistakes they've made. I mean, it's kind of natural when you go through the phases of maturity that you tend to blame your parents for your problems that you're currently facing in life, because oh, my dad didn't love me, my mom didn't hug me, you know whatever it might be. And trust me, there's a lot of people out there that are able to pick themselves up by their bootstraps when they've been knocked down by their parents from the time they're born to the time they're an adult, and they
So that's
still
part of what you got
find
to
a way
do.
to make it, you know.
That's the whole point of what you got to do is you got to get over that. You got to,
Hmm.
you can learn from it, but you make peace with it.
Yeah.
Decide what you like, what you don't like. Do things different. Don't do things different just for the sake of doing, because you're still like that teenager revolt. You know,
Hmm.
but you got to put it in its place. You got to understand it, but it can't rule you. It can't be this demon chasing you.
Yeah.
You got to make your own path on that.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally. And the thing with being a parent is it's such a complicated role. You wouldn't think it on the surface, but when you really spend time to think about it and you were a parent, you realize it's very complicated. But in a good way to what I heard from a while ago, parents can be one of two things: a good example or a terrible warning. And a child is going to take everything that you do, how you've raised them, and they're going to say, "Well, I'm not going to do that when I'm a parent," or I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do a little bit different. There's always something that you're going to do differently. Like the one thing that my mom did for me, we'll touch on this, here in a little bit, is that, single parent, the way she was raised, she felt she didn't have a voice. So she made sure that she raised me where I was able to have a voice. And I've never had a problem since speaking my mind, saying what I think, and it, you combine that with who my father was, maybe you mix in that rebellious side, maybe that was a perfect storm for raising a hell child like I was. I don't know, but at least I felt like I could always stick up for myself.
And the thing is, not a lifetime of that. When you hit when especially a young man hits a certain age, and girls do it too when they're trying to establish their independence.
Hmm.
That's where the disobedience comes through. They're challenging the rules, they're challenging the authority, and how well do they weather that? Are they going to be 30 and 40 still with
Yeah.
this war one life, or are they going to? Is that training going to kick in?
Hmm.
And once you get past that stage, it's like, hey, they're kind of just like me now. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And like I said, if that doesn't kick in and they're blaming their parents for their problems, now been identified most of their life as being a victim. Now, how is that going to manifest itself, throughout the rest of their life? Are they going to actually, you know, be their own hero of their own life and overcome that obstacle, which is a huge obstacle. I mean, if you have a mother that didn't give you the support you need and give you the love you need, I mean, good luck being a well balanced, you know, human being.
And
And,
that's when you get over it, though. It's at that point being a good father is putting that behind you and doing the best job you can.
yeah,
You know,
and
and that intent will carry you so much further. Talk about discipline levels. Some people go from barely even talking to their, okay, now let's not do that. That's not nice, to spanking. And, you can argue all day long scientifically what's worse, what's better. But I think the very worst thing is not caring, not
yeah,
being involved, being ignorant to it.
yeah.
And
Now,
that's worse than either of those
right
resolutions.
now, for me, I won't shy away from it. I did spank my kids. If they now, when they were young, yeah. If they're reaching for something they shouldn't be reaching for, smack their hand. If they lied to me, they got their ass spanked, and that was the one thing that I focused on. If you lie to me and then you tell me the truth, fine. No punishment, because admitting that you made a mistake, admitting that you lied, tells me you learned your lesson. But early on, when they would start to do that shit, yeah, you better believe me, I spanked them. And there was a lot of times where I did, you know, lose my cool, and that's not okay. I'm not. It's not child abuse, but still, it's one of those things where that was my choice as a parent to make. Look, I am going to enact corporal punishment if you lie. Other than that, but even so, like, other than the spanking, if there was something where they did where I just, yelled at them, gave them a lecture, gave them that fucking, excuse me, gave them that, that mean look, you know, if I felt that I went overboard, I always would apologize. And that's one
And
thing that parents
that's
don't
things.
do is they don't apologize. If they know they've made a mistake, it's like, well, whatever. No, if I make a mistake, I'm going to apologize because I'm not perfect. I'm a human and I'm flawed. And I accept that.
I'm lucky. I haven't had to really reach it. It's funny, at this age I can still sit there and say, "Now tell me that," and then they still just spit out the truth. They're not very good at lying or even trying yet. So
Yeah.
I've been pretty fortunate. I really have. Haven't had to go down that road yet because I can still raise my voice and cause tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
I'm fortunate.
my,
I'll hit that. I'll hit that
yeah.
decision when I do have to hit it, and it would be something about stealing. I think it
Mm,
would be stealing, being dishonest, cheating someone. Those are things that I really would. I'd have to say it's still on the table.
mm-hmm.
And what I do is I take every little thing as a learning opportunity. Getting too much change back at the store.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. You gave me a $5. I was supposed to get a $1 back, and gave me $5 back.
Right. And
I
that's,
take every single thing, even as that learning opportunity.
yeah. Yeah. And that's, especially for me, and again, credit to, my kids, they were good kids, but they would still make mistakes, and it would be a minor thing. It'd be like, take care of the dishes when you guys get home. I like to have an empty, nice clean sink, above, or empty the dishwasher. It'd be just something so minor. And if they forgot, most parents would be like, hey, you forgot. Well, I mean, that's like the only thing they did wrong in like 2 months, and it'd be like this trend of forgetfulness. So I would have to use the littlest thing that I could as an example, like you said, like a learning lesson. Like, look, just because you have a lot of stuff on your plate doesn't mean that it's okay to forget things that are important.
And of
You know?
course, your own example.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. That we talked about this before, about the do what I say thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's about doing what you do.
Yeah.
And your example, my dad's example of everything he did right and good and my mom's examples are kind of what sticks with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're watching what they do.
Right.
Sounds pretty good.